Hey everybody, the past week has been a great opportunity to find out what some of our favorite super investors did in the fourth quarter of 2021. A lot of 13F filings have come out, so this is a great opportunity for me and other retail investors to look at some of our favorite super investors to figure out what does their portfolio look like at the end of Q4 2021. And I've already done videos on Warren Buffett, I did a video on Li Lu, and I also did a video on Phil Town and went over each one of their portfolios at the end of the fourth quarter. So if you want to go check those videos out, I'll put a link down in the description below, so feel free to go do that. Today, I want to talk about Mohnish Pabrai and go over his current portfolio. And he is one of my favorite super investors. I have binge watched so many videos on him. I think he's a very smart businessman. I think he's a great investor. And certainly some of my own positions that I have cloned from him. So we're going to take a look and figure out what his portfolio looks like for the fourth quarter. And this is the first video you've seen of mine. My name is Justin Lendering, but my friends call me J Money. I've been an accountant for about 20 years, but I'm a very passionate investor. I hold a very concentrated portfolio of around 10 stocks. So I try to find other super investors that kind of have that same philosophy. And certainly Mohnish Pabrai fits that bill. So let's just jump in and take a look at this first stock here. And the first stock is Alibaba. So we found out that he actually sold out of Alibaba completely in the fourth quarter. And this was not a surprise. He actually had reduced his position by over 70% in Q3. So it was not surprising that he sold out of the rest. Now we know by listening to him, he's had interviews with other people and he's moved that money to Prosus. Prosus is a holding company that is owned by Naspers, and Naspers has a huge stake in Tencent. In fact, they own almost 30% of Tencent. The problem with Naspers is actually in South Africa, and they are the biggest company in South Africa, and they haven't been able to leverage that Tencent stake as much as they've wanted to. So they created Prosus, which is on the European exchange. I believe it's in Amsterdam, to try to make up that delta of their market cap versus their total Tencent stake. So that's kind of the idea there. Another reason why Mohnish Pabrai sold out Alibaba, he mentioned it was also tax loss harvesting. But I do think more than not, it was just because he liked Tencent so much and he's trying to find another, or he thinks he found a better opportunity than Alibaba. All right, so that's the first one we want to take a look at. Next one is Shinikin. So we can see here with the Shinikin group that he's reduced his position by 60%. So currently it's only about 1% of his portfolio. This is a company that's in Japan. They're in the real estate arena. And what I love about Mohnish Pabrai so much is that he's not afraid to find opportunities no matter where they're at. And in fact, some of the other positions we're going to go through, I mean, they're all over the world. And Japan in general, over the last couple of decades, has not been a great place to put your money. In fact, it's been one of the worst places in the world to put your money, but he was able to find Shinikin, and he has been slowly selling out of that position. So it wouldn't surprise me at this point, because I think this is the second quarter in a row. And so he has been selling out of this position. Even last quarter, he sold some. So I would expect probably over the next quarter or two, he's just going to sell out completely, because that just kind of seems like where that is going at this point. Next up, we are going to take a look at Cerritage Growth Properties, ticker symbol SRG. This is another company that's in the real estate arena. This was a company that I was invested in for a little while, and they've had a hard time. So March 2020, the whole market crashed like everybody knows about, and they just have not been able to recover at the rate that a lot of people were hoping they would. I mean, their share price is around $40 a share. And today, it's trading around $10 a share. What's interesting about Cerritage Growth Properties is actually Warren Buffett put his personal money into the company back when it was around $35 a share. And then when this company tanked after March 2020, A lot of other super investors actually bought into the company as well. Guy Spear, Phil Town, but like I said, it just hasn't had a good bounce back since the market has crashed. Now, it did get up to over $20 a share at one point, but now it's down to $10 a share. So he sold out of about 67% of his total position. Right now, it's about 2% of his total position at this time. So next up, let's take a look at Rysas, ticker symbol RYSAS. So this company is in Turkey, and there's a funny story because Mohnish Pabrai and Guy Spear are really good friends, and they always share their ideas of companies that they're looking at and potentially buying into. And I do think it's really important to have another person or persons to speak with and kind of bounce ideas off of. And when Guy Spear heard that this company was in Turkey, he said, "There's no way I would ever invest in a company in Turkey." But obviously, that doesn't deter Mohnish Pabrai at all. And as of the last quarter, there is no difference in shares. So he didn't sell, he didn't buy. It's around 5% of his total shares. Now, the share price has returned a good amount over the last 3 years. In fact, if you look at, he owns about 30% of that company right now. When he invests, he never invests more than 9.99999%. So this company actually has returned what looks like almost 3 times what he probably put into it. And if you look at the last 3 years, the compounded annual growth rate has been 30%. So he's actually made some really, really good money off this. He must think it's still pretty good because he didn't sell at all of his position. All right, so next up, let's take a look at Nice Holdings. And this is ticker symbol 34310. He sold about 14% of his total position. Right now, it's about 7% of his total position. This company is in Korea. They are a big player in credit information services. This does not look like it's been a winner for Pabrai so far. This company has been on the downtrend. I mean, their stock has not gone up at all. So if he's bought in the last 4 or 5 years, I don't see where he's made any money. So at this time, it looks like this may not be a big winner for him compared to his other positions, and he is slowly selling out of it overall. Next up is Edelweiss Financial Services, ticker symbol EDEL. He actually bought more of this. So he bought about 3% more. He bought 1.9 million shares. It's about 13% of his total portfolio. This is a company that is in India. They offer credit products for home and business loans. This is a company that I have not looked into heavily yet, so I can't really tell you if it's a good buy or not. But for Mohnish Pabrai, if he's buying more, that kind of gives me an indication that is still of good value overall. Next up, let's take a look at Tech Realty, ticker symbol SUNT. He didn't do anything with this position. It's still the same, so it's about 14% of his total portfolio. It's about 9.7 million shares. And this is a company that is in India as well. So there's a video of Mohnish Pabrai at a Google's talk where he actually talks about Tech Realty, and he actually bets against another investor. You don't find out who that investor is. It's another hedge fund manager. But this hedge fund manager owns a company that's in India as well. It's a company that manufactures and sells car parts, and it has a huge trajectory up over the last several years. A great company. Again, I don't remember. It's like Mom Son Mubi or something like that. Well, he made a bet with this other investor and said, I think Tech Realty is going to beat out your company over the next 12 years. And he showed a chart of Tech Realty, and it's been crap. It's been up and down and kind of up and then down. And of course, Mohnish bought when it was down. But the other company that's hedge fund managers bought, I mean, that has gone up. I mean, it's returned, I think, almost 30% per year over the last 5 years. And Mohnish Pabrai's statement is saying, hey, this other company is great that you own, but there's no way they're going to have that type of growth going out into the future. What's happened in the past happened in the past. I'm worried about the future. And I think Tech Realty is going to do better. In fact, if you go back the last 5 years, and I think he bought this in 2017, from what I can tell, he's actually, I think, 3 or 4x'd his money since he bought this company. And he's not selling any shares. So that at least tells me that he still thinks it has some room to grow overall. And something I've noticed about Mohnish Pabrai too, he definitely buys into a lot of real estate or REIT companies. So it definitely seems like he knows that industry fairly well. All right, so next up, let's talk about Rain Industries. This is another interesting one. Ticker symbol RAID. This is a company in India as well. He increased his position by 35% last quarter. So now it's 18% of his total portfolio. And what's interesting about Rain, during that same Google talk, when he talked about Tech Realty, he also talked about Rain Industries. In fact, maybe I'll put a link to that video down below because it's super fascinating. It's over an hour long. But if you enjoy Mohnish Pabrai, I think you'll really enjoy that video. But this one, he actually bets against Guy Spear. So Guy Spear owns MasterCard, which has had an unbelievable compounded growth over the last several years. And his bet is that Rain Industries is going to beat MasterCard. And if you look at Rain Industries, I mean, their chart has been terrible. I mean, they've just been down the dumps. Nobody cares about them. Of course, Mohnish Pabrai bought at the low end. So he's actually done fairly well so far. And with him loading up another 35% on this company, that at least is an indication to me he thinks the company is actually going to do pretty well. And this company manufactures and sells carbon products, cement, electricity, and specialty chemicals around the world. They're located in India as well. The stock is up 47% over this last year too. So that also makes it very interesting that he's buying a lot more shares, even though it's run up almost 50% over the last year. So interesting. I've not dug into that company a ton, but again, go check out that Google video. It tells you a lot in there. So last up is Micron Technologies, ticker symbol MU. This is 37% of his portfolio. He actually increased his position with Micron by 15%. So this is a company that I also own. I think Micron is in a fabulous place right now. So Micron actually makes memory chips. They make DRAM chips. They also make NAND chips, but they're memory chips. They're in oligopoly, which means there's just a few players in the industry. In fact, there's only two other companies which are both located in South Korea, SK and then also Samsung. Those are the other two that make these DRAM chips. But Micron is the only one in the United States that makes these type of memory chips. And so if you look at their industry, it's very interesting. They're very cyclical. So for a long time, for several years, in fact, you look at that industry, it's just been down. I mean, Micron has been in the dumps. So what has happened is that all of a sudden now the demand for memory chips has grown and the supply is low. So what happens is these companies just start manufacturing these memory chips like crazy when there's a high demand. And then all of a sudden that demand just all of a sudden, falls and they're stuck with all these memory chips. And in order to get rid of them, they have to mark them down and they're terrible margins. While the opposite is happening right now with the demand being so high, the supply is low. Again, only 3 companies in the entire world that make these chips. They can actually raise their prices, so their margins are absolutely incredible right now. And the company just announced their first dividend that they've ever done. It's only 10 cents. Can laugh at that, but I think that will attract some different investors into this stock as well. I think they have fantastic management. For me personally, I think it's like 5 or 6% of my portfolio. So I'm also very bullish on Micron, and it makes it interesting. I mean, since it's already so big in his portfolio, added 15%. Or increased it by 15% in his portfolio, that gets me even more interested about this. Now, I will say Micron right now is trading around $95 a share at the time of this video, and it did dip down to almost $70 to $75 in the fourth quarter. So those are the stocks. Now, I can already see people screaming at the screen. If you know Mohnish Pabrai, and I actually talked about it at the beginning of this video, him selling Alibaba shares, what did he buy? He's talked about buying Prosus over in the European exchange. I don't think he bought the ADRs here in the United States. I'm pretty sure he bought the ones over in Amsterdam. So what's interesting, so this data here, just so you guys know, I pulled this data from dataroma.com. It's a free website. You can actually go track super investors there. I also pulled information from Ticker Terminal. So Dataroma is great. You can find 13F filings there, but that's only for the United States holdings. If there's anything outside the United States, it's not going to have it on Dataroma. So I go to Ticker Terminal to get the rest of the information. Ticker Ticker Terminal is one of the best websites I have ever used. I do have an affiliate link down below if you want to support the channel or go check out that link. They have a free version and they have a paid version. The paid version gives you access to over 10,000 super investor portfolios. You can see 15 years worth of financials. Fantastic website overall. However, I cannot find what his position in Prosus is. And I'm guessing, and maybe some people that are watching this will know more than me. You can drop it down in the comments below. But I'm guessing because Prosus is so big. I mean, Prosus right now, I think is around a $200 billion market cap. In fact, let's go, maybe we can go take a look at that real quick. So here's Ticker Terminal. Here's his positions right here that we were just looking at. But if we go take a look at Prosus specifically, which is PRX. Get USD. So you're talking $171 billion market cap, so almost $200 billion. So I think the reason why it's not showing up in anywhere that I look is that because this company is so large. I think once they get over 5%, again, someone can correct me in the comments if this is wrong, but I think once you get to 5%, there has to be some type of filing from the company stating who the shareholder is. And so since it doesn't hit that 5% mark because the company is so large, it's just not showing up. In fact, another super investor that I follow that I really like as well is Rob Vinall, who owns Prosus. I actually think, because Mohnish Pabrai has talked about Rob Vinall in another video, that I think he got the idea from Rob Vinall. But if you go to Rob Vinall's super investor portfolio as well, so if we over here, go track investors, go look up, his is RV Capital. If we look at Rob's, let's go think here for a second. So you can see him here. He does not have Prosus in here. He does not have Alibaba in here either. And I know he owns Alibaba. So I'm thinking maybe he owns Alibaba on the Hong Kong exchange. And then he probably owns Prosus on the Amsterdam exchange. And again, because I think those companies are so large, and he doesn't own enough percentage of them, they're just not showing up. But in both cases, we know that these people have bought Prosus because they've talked about it. Rob Vinall has talked about it in his shareholder letter, and Mohnish Pabrai has talked about it in other videos and other interviews that he bought Prosus specifically. So interesting that doesn't show up, but we know that is there. So at this time, we don't know how big it is in his portfolio. Is it 5%? Is it 10%? You know, my assumption is because he's been selling out of these other stocks and he sold out of Alibaba completely. I'm thinking Prosus is probably more than 10% of his portfolio in total, would be my assumption. And it has been dropping. The stock price has been dropping, that is. So I think it's going to be a decent size in his portfolio. Prosus is a company I own as well. I own Tencent too. I own their ADRs. I don't own the Hong Kong exchange or the Amsterdam exchange for myself, but I own a lot less money than them, so I don't think that's a big deal. So I understand when they go to those actual exchanges to buy them. But that's his portfolio overall. If anyone knows how much Prosus he's bought, throw it down in the comment section. I would love to hear from you on that. I'd love to hear from you about his portfolio. What do you think about him selling out Alibaba completely, selling down on Shinnikin, Cerritage Growth Properties, Nice Holdings, also increasing his position on Micron, Rain Industries, Edelweiss Financial? I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you guys on the other side. Take care and God bless.